Hey, my fellow multidimensionals, it's Aisha Love, founder of Multidimensional You. Wow, okay, so I have been putting off this video, even though it's only been a couple weeks since my own higher guidance and team showed me that I need to do this. We can go into a bit of resistance. Hence the black for shadow work. I asked my team, give me a page number in my own book today. Yeah, that would be 37, The Trap of the Intellect, and the Spiritual Bypass, and it talks all about, shadow work. We can really get, distracted by the metaphysics, which are really, really cool. But at the end of the day, we are in this healing renaissance, and the brass tacks is here. Like, this is the main event. This is the show. This is where everything is taking place. And so I'm hearing circle the wagons. We're being tasked, invited, gently encouraged, sometimes not so gently, depending on how much resistance and how long we've been ignoring the inner nudges, to circle the wagons back into the self. And what have we been bypassing? What never really fully developed, and what needs to rebalance? So that's really the theme for this channel now, is higher harmonics, higher frequencies will amplify and expand what's present. So if imbalance is present, it's going to get pretty extreme. Things are going to go off the rails because there wasn't, a stable foundation. So that's why so many of us have been in what feels like sometimes never-ending stages of deconstruction, getting down to maybe even beyond the studs, taking out the old foundation that was maybe cattywampus, and doing all of that groundwork, okay? Nova Noodle has joined us. She wanted to be in the video today. Okay, so the shadow that wants to be talked about in a public conversation, and that I'm being inner-prompted to out myself on, is hyper-independency, or in the words of a friend who's a therapist, I'd never heard of this term, but counter-dependency. We all know about codependency, right? All kind of entangled, can't do things on your own. Counter-dependency would be the complete opposite of that. Raise your hand if you, like me, have spent a lifetime being hyper independent, being maybe an overachiever, right? All that good stuff. And of course, as we circle the wagons on this piece of shadow, what we're going to find is that it originates from wounding, maybe wounding we've been exploring for lifetimes that we're working to resolve and weave a more balanced solution to. It doesn't really matter, it could just be this one, but suffice it to say, it's one of those distortions in the human experience that metaphysicians are seeking to bring greater balance to. You can't make this up. Just before, as I was setting up my camera and before I made this video, the Eastern Phoebe flycatcher babies fledged out of their nest. It's been weeks. I figured at some point, of course, they're going to come out, but literally right as I go to make this video. And it kind of set me back, because I thought, well, that's kind of the opposite symbolism I would think of what wants to be talked about today, because I left home at 17 and I never went back. That was it. I was just on my way. I didn't even, in some ways, want my parents at my move into college. I was like, I got it. I mean, they did. They lived overseas at the time, but I got it. Spent my whole lifetime doing that, right? So it took me a minute to figure out, why did this happen? The shamanism tradition, we're always working with the outer world to see what's being reflected to us. All my cats are gonna end up making a cameo today. This is Petal, or Tiny, as she's known in the house. So back to the Phoebe flycatchers. Why was this reflected to me and shown to me right before I'm about to talk about the shadow work around hyper-independence, lone wolf, counter-dependency, all that stuff? Well, it's because, of course, when they fledged, I knew they would stay on the deck, and they did, and that their parents would come and take care of them there for a while. So there it is. The shadow work around, I don't need help, originates in an early childhood wound that it was an astrologer that brought this to my attention, that said one of your early caregivers disappearance pretty much overnight has impacted you way more than you realize. And I had never thought about it because I was like 1.5, 2. We lived in Iran, and this beautiful woman, beautiful soul who loved us dearly, apparently just disappeared. Like she just stopped coming. And of course I wouldn't have really recognized it because I wouldn't have had conscious memory. I was pre-verbal and too small for that to kind of register. And yet, at the human level, right, the message that a child internalizes is, I am not supported, I've been abandoned, and I have to do this on my own. And so really interesting. And I know many of you have been doing a lot of deep excavation work on your shadow. I've been doing this with my clients, and it's amazing to find what we do. Sometimes local, like in this lifetime, and then sometimes, right, like I talked about last time, like 1,000 years ago, what happened in the ancestral lines, oh my gosh. And not to mention like kind of the whole bigger, larger distortion that we addressed on the Mother's Day live transmission and the Higher Love Alchemy series. I highly recommend you go check that out if you have not done those. Start at the beginning and work your way through them because they do follow a certain sequence. So it would appear that I have arrived at a time where, as I've been saying, my soul has called time out and said, you are not in balance. You have been in hyper independence, and this needs to be healed and brought back into harmony so that as you then move out in the world and you expand and amplify, this distortion will not carry across in certain areas of life. They're showing me this, and by they, it's all my own greater structure, right? They are showing me like a shopping cart with a wobbly wheel. Like, have you ever tried to push one of those? It's like, it just doesn't go in the right direction. It doesn't go straight, so it's kind of like getting our wheels on straight and balanced. Same thing with tire rotation, right? You got to balance, rotate the tires periodically to keep the vehicle running in a balanced fashion. This is what we're tasked with at this time. I'll be the first to admit that there's a huge part of, the distortional pattern-based ego construct, identity construct, that's like, no, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to talk about that. I've done this my whole life. I've been in this mode my whole life. We don't need to change this. And it's like, oh, really? Well, how's it working for you? So here's my update, my personal and business situation. A major client fee that was supposed to come in early this year has not come in. Right? So all the activities that I was planning, all the programs I was going to build out, and I'm at a loss, literally and figuratively, right? And as I did what I do with all my clients, is like, well, let's go in and figure this out. What is this all about? And Chinese proverb, good luck, bad luck. So on the surface, it might be like, oh, very bad, right? Like, oh, but I know better. Something else is going on here. And yes, I had to deal with some hardcore psychic attack and all that good stuff, but it only brought me to a healer who's at a totally different power and helped me go to another power, right? That's always serving that kind of up-leveling. But here it remains. So if a negative pattern remains after doing a lot of clearing work, because that's a good idea, like remove the top layers, great idea. Then we know it's got to be our own shadow work. And I've been tasked with huge planetary multidimensional field work. I've pulled it off for all these years. I've pulled rabbits out of hats. I've jumped on planes. I've, been able to manifest the funds to do all this stuff. And now all that's kind of contracting because it's saying, you got to deal with this. You got to heal it. This is not balanced. To not ever, not even ask for help. It's not even recognize that you need it as a human being. So I've lived in semi-hermit mode for the better part of 2 years, and I have now direct experience that, this is not how we are wired to live as human beings. It served its purposes, but this is not the path going forward. And to be fair, many of us don't recognize these patterns and these distortions because our whole culture teaches us not to feel. So we don't necessarily recognize it. We're so used to ignoring, suppressing, minimizing, denying our emotions that, it catches us off guard and we have to end up in, crisis. And then the crisis gives us permission to really go, wait, what's going on, and then, to choose something different. And in that moment, you'll source, I didn't want to be doing it this way, but the pattern may be so ingrained that you've forgotten that there's a choice. And that's definitely been the case for me. So maybe for you, it's the opposite. Maybe codependency is more your, negative distortion jam. It would be to begin to look at where that developed, and then to set about taking action that is a 180 from that, right? That is in the opposite direction of beginning to do more things on your own. For me, nope, it's the other way, other direction. So now, I have been asking friends and family for help more. And I was told to make this video and start this public dialogue about what are the ways in which, in the words of a friend yesterday, we were speaking, and she said, I've wondered how far, how extreme we're going to take this, individualism experiment. Like, how far does that stretch? And I'm like, yeah, I think we're there. I think we've hit it. So many people are experiencing, record levels of loneliness. I go back to, what was the book, Bowling Alone? Studies have been telling us this. COVID sent it into the stratosphere, this recognition that we've got, a distortional pattern around this. But what I'm being shown now is that we still have a competing distortional program that says you have to do it all on your own, especially in the United States, especially in America. Remember, we've got like a disproportionate population relative to the worldwide population of independent, quantum jumpers who were like, we're going to go stake out a whole new life, right? And yet that might not be the healthiest, might not be the most balanced approach to life. What? Who knew? So, think about your own country's set of distortions and patterns, and is that helping or hindering soul growth and the development of unity consciousness on the planet? The rugged individualist and all of that truly is a myth, because no person acts alone. It's not truth. Every single person on this planet has had help, will receive help in some form or another to make the whole thing work. But those of us with the shadow of counterdependency, right, hyper individualism, can forget that we are not meant to be doing this alone. I think this shadow is pretty sneaky because, especially in the US, as I've said, the culture puts this kind of hyper individualism on a pedestal and celebrates it. Not great. So it took me this long to really figure it out and go, wait, this is whack. This is not healthy. This is not a pattern that I want to carry into the second part of my life. So yes, for the ego identity construct that has been formed by this distortional pattern, there will be resistance to A, even looking at it. Don't want to look at it, don't want to see it. B, beginning to be vulnerable and let yourself actually feel it. Oh God, right? Especially this one, because it's like, I got it all figured out. It's like, whoa, the idea that you don't, like, that will rock your world for a second or two. And then 3, to really start to go, well, what now do I do about this? Because I can't just keep doing what I've been doing, clearly. And I'm being forced now into a situation where, oh wow, I actually have to contemplate the idea that A, I need help, and B, I've got to ask for it. And C, then to receive it. Not in a way that's bracing and like, it's only for this and not that much. And I've watched that part of me go like, wow, look at how all the ways you want to minimize the help, as though it's somehow shameful to receive help. So here's the kicker. I'm really good at helping others. I've done it my whole life. And to then not turn around and be able to receive help, wow. I mean, I'm not proud of that. I realize that's denying other people all the pleasure I've had of being able to give. And again, I'm being shown the distortion of society that, yeah, there's a bit of a hierarchy there. Like, oh, I'm the one that helps. I'm not the one that has to ask for help. Oh my God. Yeah, we are definitely catching our blind spots, aren't we? So this is the exploration I've been in. This is the distortion I am in the process of healing. And I will say, yeah, there's the part that's in resistance, but then there's the part, it would be that inner child piece that never received what they needed because of course it wasn't even recognized. And at the soul level, we set all this up in our pre-birth planning, okay? We set all this up and now, okay, ding, here we are as adults recognizing it. And that part of myself, that inner child, is so excited. it's so excited to do stuff with other people and get some help. And it feels so nourished and loved. And it's like, woohoo. And it's interesting to see that that part of me is way bigger in some ways than the part that's like, no, I got it, I'm good. Because that part has had enough time and enough suffering to say like, yeah, I don't think I know what I'm doing. So take it away, inner child. And of course, the most inner child of all kitties, puppy dog. You say hi, puppy? This is Ada, would show up. So she's the sweetest, most childlike, innocent, aren't ya? Yeah. Did you know you're gonna be on the video? Say bye. See your big puppy paws? She's really a dog in a cat body, aren't ya? Yes, you are. I can feel myself starting to try to backpedal for this next part. Like, that was good, right? We don't need to talk about anything else. That's good. That's good. Public dialogue started. Yay. And then my team's like, excuse me? So it's not enough to talk about asking for help. So here's the part where I'm going to ask for help from my heart. With enthusiasm for what can be. So if New Earth is based in unity consciousness and higher vibes and open hearts and all that wonderful stuff, what is possible if we all begin to take ourselves out of our silos and begin to look at how we can help one another? And what I'm being shown now is not as like a matter of like temporary recourse because that's the only solution. No, like now it's part of a new foundation of doing things this way. And I get that there are many cultures worldwide and families that have figured this out, and you don't necessarily need the tutorial on this. If anything, we need your voice about, what's possible, and not from a, hierarchical standpoint of better than or anything like that, just really clean and honest about what it's like to be in an open-hearted, loving family. You'll have your own shadow that you'll need to unpack. So let's be careful that nobody really says like, yeah, we got it all figured out. Because if you do, like, run for the hills. None of us do, right? We've just begun this big cleanup project in this healing renaissance. So the specific help that I'm asking for is, let's start with my biggest passion project that I've been working on for years now. It's the idea to create a foundation, kind of like an educational foundation, if you will, that helps bring this work, these shifting multidimensional meditation experiences out to way more people at very little to maybe no cost. Many of you may not know, but I come from the nonprofit sector. I spent years as an executive director. I served on boards. I did organizational development, board development, I was grant writer, fundraiser, developed programs, spoke with funders, worked with foundations. I'm starting to laugh because this is my jam. Like I'll develop a whole skill set and an understanding, and then I move on, through this metaphysical awakening and use and apply all of those abilities. So really what we'd be talking about is if you're a philanthropist, or maybe you have friends, family who are philanthropists, and they're ready for a new project, I would be happy to visit with them in the exploration stage. It would be setting up an endowment to pay for the operating expenses and set up the educational model. I see the Edgar Cayce Foundation puts a lot of information out gratis. I know that I'm on the planet to bring major template shifts about. And so rather than me lone wolfing it, trying to figure it all out on my own, clearly, the greater team and the plan has said, okay, that's it. Now you've got to come into collaboration with others. And so if you're having kind of a moment of like a lot of energy and you're just going, whoa, something there speaking to me, maybe you're not a philanthropist. And so you're scratching your head like going like, yeah, but I don't have the money. I don't know what that's about. Because we're talking an endowment of at least $1 million, probably more like 5 million, because then you take 5% distribution every year to fund the operating expenses, right? We might even throw in some of this field work I do. That could be a separate program. I don't know. I mean, again, my team is saying, don't figure it all out yourself, right? 2 heads are better than 1. More people, many hands make light work. This isn't yours to shoulder alone, right? Because that's kind of the martyr program. But you may know someone. You may know someone who, or you may about to cross paths with someone. I mean, there are greater forces at work, and anybody doing the red balloon game right now with spirit guides, like it's just, there's so much more support than us just here in the dense physical reality trying to muddle our way through, right? Okay, so that's the really big project, and it's called Love is the Foundation, right? Or the foundation is love, and it is a 501c3 foundation. And I know how to do all that, and I could go do all the paperwork and I could get the article set up and I could go, but I haven't been able to do it on my own because I'm not meant to, is what I've realized. I'm not meant to continue operating in this out of balance mode. And then beyond that, the other way that I'm asking for help is as I'm traversing this financially unstable time where, again, I thought a huge client fee was coming in and it didn't, it would be referring, purchasing private sessions, working with me one-on-one in my private program. I've got courses, meditations that you can purchase, making a donation. I put all of these links in the description or the email, however you're receiving this, below. In the US, you can make a donation to an individual up to $18,000 tax-free. That may be my team's like, that is the route to go. This isn't to your business. This is to you personally to support your basic needs while you get yourself back up on your feet. Now I've come a long way because there is definitely a part of me that still is like cringing inside. Like, did you just ask for that? Oh my God. And yet the other part of me is like, damn straight you did, because you have really important work to do. Let's go. Also, I will be reopening the Emergence Experience here soon. You could put a deposit down and secure your place for that. I think we're going to get going in early August this year. For those of you who've completed tracks in the past, there are 4 tracks total. The Awakening Foundations course, that's now do it on your own, 6 months. Then there's Activation, Expansion, and Emanation. And I just wrapped with the last cohort in the Emanation track. And I can say what a beautiful experience that those years together were. Another way you can help is, do you have a second home or a vacation home that you would be willing to make available for a year or two? I was given a new addition to my business model just a few days ago by my team, and I really get it. It's going to bring this work out to many more people. Essentially what I'm being tasked with is doing what I'm doing right now, which is rebalancing myself out of counter-dependency and hyper-independence by asking for help and building community in the process. And so there's a part of me that feels really relieved right now, because the last thing I want to do is be way showing further imbalance. Like, this is the way you do it. And I realize, whoa, this hyper-independent streak, yes, in part needed to do the kind of crazy multidimensional cosmic agent stuff I do, but not the way that I'm meant to go forward, or any of us are meant to go forward. And I think we all know that COVID was just the beginning. We're all facing disruptive events designed by our higher self collective to usher in a more unified era, which, because of the shadow and the distortions we've been talking about this whole video, this whole conversation, we are blind to. We have these blind spots, and we need crisis in order to present it and say, wow, maybe I do need my neighbor. Maybe I do need my friends and family. Maybe we could be doing this differently. Wow, I might be making bank, but I'm really lonely. And so I've experienced all of this, and I really get it at a completely different level. Now, I will be the first to say it's also really important that the community we're building has some literacy when it comes to shadow work, because otherwise it's a lot of, dysfunction junction, and it's a lot of toxic old stuff. And I know many of you have broken away for those reasons. So essentially we're kind of like pulling apart all the constructs, the relationships, cleaning them up, and now putting them together in a much healthier, more balanced fashion. That is an important ingredient, so I don't want to skip over that fact. And then there are other ways that you can support me that aren't monetary. So if I have impacted your life, you can send in a video testimonial, a written testimonial. You can see me in my highest light, right? Helping many on the planet, being supported and supporting others in return in a much more balanced fashion, just sending me good energy. Don't send me worry, because that's prayer in reverse, okay? And again, refer and share the material. And if you maybe you have a specialty of some kind that you'd be willing to lend in a volunteer fashion, I'm just open to the conversations, right? I am so clear that I am not meant to control or micromanage any of this, but I am rather to open myself up and allow a greater process to take place. Okay, so if you resonate with this conversation and you recognize some of these patterns in yourself, please leave a comment. Please join in the conversation. Maybe you want to set a new course. Maybe this is your first place to be witnessed in a new way. Maybe you have a different distortion, and you can talk about that and the pattern that you're looking to balance. Maybe, you know, what would be really helpful, I think, for myself and others is times in your life when you've needed to balance something out and ask for help and how that went, right? I was talking to a client recently and they said, yeah, you know, all the years and all the people I've helped who've literally like slept on my couch, and wow, you know, of course it's time for us to go into balancing out by receiving help, right? I really appreciate you staying for the length of this conversation and contemplating with me and others how we can do this better, how we can live in more harmony and more unity, in more balance. And thank you for any and all help. I truly, truly appreciate it.